Advent as a season is a time that I like to say kind of works backwards. We start today on our first Sunday of Advent looking at Jesus' return in glory at the end of time, the day for which we're all waiting and preparing ourselves. We know that he will come in glory and he will judge all the nations and everybody will stand before him to receive their reward or their punishment depending on what they did in this life, and no one is immune to it. Every one of us, whether people believed in Jesus or not, will stand in judgment before him. And so the readings today remind us to be vigilant and stand before the Lord faithfully, follow him day by day, and do as he tells us, and we have nothing to worry about. On that day, we will be found among the just. The next 2 weeks, we talk about how the Lord comes to us in grace, in the sacraments and other things each and every day to help prepare us on this journey as we're preparing for that day of judgment. This is what the Lord does in order to help us. And then we conclude our Advent journey with our immediate preparation for Christmas, remembering that 2,000 years ago, God himself was born into our world. So time-wise, it kind of works backwards. And Advent as a season can get lost because while for us it's just beginning, we haven't even blessed and lit our Advent wreath yet. We'll do that a little later in the Mass. For the cultural world around us, it's Christmas. Christmas time has already begun, and houses are being decorated. People are doing their shopping. They're playing Christmas carols in the stores. Actually, they've been doing that since October, but nevertheless, a lot of times we end up just getting right into Christmas and forget about our Advent journey. And some people lament that, the loss of our Advent celebration. Some people blame it all on the commercial preparation for Christmas. And, well, I'm not a fan of commercialism more than anyone else is, but let's face it, commercialism is part of our fallen human nature. It's there. And if we try to fight commercialism and defeat it completely, well, that's never going to happen. And we'll end up just becoming grumpy people who are just fighting something we can't defeat each year. Commercialism is there, and we're never going to get away from it. I can guarantee you, if somebody had known what was happening that first Christmas, they would have opened up a little souvenir stand across the street from the manger selling keychains that said, "I was there when Jesus was born." Okay? And we would have bought them, too. So we can't get rid of commercialism completely, but we can make sure it doesn't consume us, that it doesn't take over and everything become only about shopping and all the other things that happen. And the other thing lots of people grumpily complain about is Santa Claus and Frosty the Snowman and all the other things that have nothing to do with the birth of Christ, and they complain all those things are taking away the focus on Jesus. Well, not necessarily. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is not the Antichrist, I can assure you that. It is not the presence of Rudolph and Santa and Frosty and all those things that cause trouble. It's when they become the focal point in our lives, when we worry more about those things and forget about Christ. That's where we have trouble. So if we put Christ at the center of our Advent preparation and our Christmas celebration, all those other things in our culture will take their place, their secondary place behind the Lord, and they'll be a wonderful part of our rich tradition. So just put Christ in the center of everything, and we'll be fine. Now, how do we do that? Well, if I may suggest a couple of things that will help us make sure we keep our Christmas preparation and celebration focused on Christ. First of all, in our decorations in our home. I'm sure everybody has a Christmas tree. If you have children, you have at least one Santa Claus somewhere. And two things I always recommend that every family have. One, an Advent wreath, just like ours here. You can buy them pre-made. You can make your own. They come in a variety of sizes and things. And put it on the table at the beginning of meals, at the beginning of dinner. And as you say grace before meals, light the corresponding candle for whatever week it is. You can Google specific prayers that we can say while lighting each of the candles, or just say grace before meals and end by saying, "Come, Lord Jesus." And we've just kept a way to keep Advent active, that we're reminding ourselves we are in the Advent journey. So that's one thing I recommend. And secondly, every home should have a nativity set, somewhere at the focal point of all of our decorating, whether it's on a table or a mantle, or some people put it under the tree, something to remind everybody this is what it's about. It's about the birth of Christ. And a custom that many people have is when they set up the nativity scene, leave out the Christ child. and only put him in when we come back from our Christmas Mass, then place the Christ child in the manger, and now we say Christ is born, everything is complete. And even before that, we're looking at the nativity scene and saying, but the manger is empty. Christ has not been born yet. We're still waiting for that. So it keeps even some of that Advent spirit, even while we're decorating our houses for Christmas. Another thing I recommend, the greeting cards that we send to people. I get loads of cards from people every year, and I send out nearly 200 myself. And some of them are very beautiful cards. You see things with beautiful winter scenes, people in Victorian dress, Currier and Ives-like pictures, or deer in the snow, and things like that. And they're lovely scenes. And they have a lot to do with winter, but nothing at all to do with the birth of Christ. We might say, well, what's the difference? Well, imagine it this way. Suppose you have friends or family living down in Australia. And so you get your card for them. I said, oh, here's my card from Cousin Susie. And you open it up, and on the card, you see a scene of a beach. And there's people sitting in beach chairs, maybe children making sandcastles, dolphin jumping in the waves and everything. And inside it says, keep cool at Christmas. Well, you're going to look at this thing and say, what the heck is this, summer? We're freezing here. And you're sending me a picture of sitting on the beach? But remember, in the southern hemisphere, Christmas comes at the beginning of summertime for them. So they will celebrate Christmas by having beach parties. So we send them a lovely winter scene here. They open it up and they see snow. What the heck is that all about? It's going to be 95 degrees on Christmas Day. And you're sending me a picture of snow? Well, it has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with Christmas. In fact, we're sending them something that they can't even relate to. They say, well, I'll save it for 6 months from now. It has nothing to do with Christ. So take the time to go out and find a religious Christmas card, something that shows the person who's receiving it that the most important thing I'm wishing you is a Merry Christmas, the birth of Christ, that Christ will reign in your heart. So a nativity scene, the Madonna and Child, the wise men, shepherds, the Star of Bethlehem, something that tells the person receiving it, I'm wishing you Christ. And I've had some people say to me, well, Father, that sounds nice, but some of the people who I send cards to, well, they're not really religious, and I don't want them to think like I'm preaching to them, or they might be offended by receiving it. Offended? By mentioning Jesus to them? Well, that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be bringing Christ to people. That's not imposing on anyone or anything. We're giving them the reminder. And if you think about it, people who maybe wouldn't even go to church on Christmas will go through the entire Christmas journey and never think about Christ once. And your Christmas card may be the one thing that speaks to them of Christ. And they may look at it and just say, oh yeah, nice, and throw it in the pile with the rest. But maybe, just maybe when you look at it, they look at it and they might say, yeah, this is what I'm missing. I've been away from the Lord too long. Maybe I really need to go back there. Especially if you say a prayer for the person as you're writing the card, let this picture say something, speak to that person's heart. It may seem like a long shot, but a picture of Christ has at least the possibility. A deer standing in the snow is not going to do that. So make sure it's something religious, and I even recommend going out and getting the religious Christmas stamps to put on them, or postage stamps. If for nothing else, then the post office remembers, make sure you print plenty of these, and it reminds them that we very much want Christ in our Christmas and in our lives. So take the time for that. Sometimes cards can be very cute. Sometimes I know people look at things and say, oh, that's so adorable, I can't pass it up. I remember once getting a card from somebody that opened it up, and on the cover of it was a comical or a cartoon moose with a big pucker on its face. And inside it read, Merry Kiss Moose. Now, it's cute, and I'm sure somebody saw this and said, oh, that's adorable, I can't pass it up. But is that what you're wishing me? On Christmas morning, I hope a moose walks into your kitchen and kisses you? Somehow I don't think that's what I want. No, our card should tell the person who's receiving it, this is about Christ. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. So take the time for that, to bring Christ into them. And then in the greetings that we use during the holiday season. We live, granted, in a religiously diverse area, and there's people who celebrate all sorts of different holidays, maybe even none at all. And so you go into a department store and the clerk behind the desk says Happy Holidays or something like that. All right, fair enough. Maybe we have to do that there. But we don't have to do that among ourselves. We as Christians among ourselves can say Merry Christmas to one another. So I recommend, as much as we can, avoid expressions such as season's greetings. Yeah, that's nice. What season? The winter season? The shopping season? Duck season? Wabbit season? What season are we talking about? If we mean Christmas, say Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Well, yeah, that too. It sounds nice, but what holiday are we talking about? Thanksgiving Day, Columbus Day, 4th of July, St. Patrick's Day. We could use that for any holiday in the year. So, happy holidays. Well, let's try to avoid that and say Merry Christmas. Now, again, sometimes in a supermarket or a store, you have to do that with the general public. But when people see me outside Mass and say, Father, have a nice holiday, I say, what do you mean? You don't know which holiday I celebrate? Or are you afraid to mention Jesus to me? Trust me, I will not be offended if you mention the name of my Lord and Savior, for whom I have given my entire life and service. I will not be offended if you mention Christ to me. And sometimes if I think I can get away with it without insulting the person, and they say, Father, have a nice holiday, I say to them, thank you. Which one? They say, oh, well, Christmas. I say, okay, well then don't just say have a nice holiday. Say have a Merry Christmas. Make the habit among ourselves of saying Christmas as much as we can and not giving in to the generics that the rest of the world has to use. We need to put Christ in Christmas, and especially among ourselves. And then the one that really gets me angry and gets my blood pressure rising when I see this, Xmas. Ooh, how horrible. Crossing Christ right out of Christmas. Do you realize if we write Xmas, we have just crossed Christ right out of Christmas, taken him out and put an X there. And I've had people sadly defend that to me, even brother priests who have said to me, oh, you're wrong about that. That's not an X. It's the Greek letter chi, which is the first letter of Christos in Greek, and it goes all the way back to the days of the catacombs and the persecution, where people couldn't mention Christ because they'd get arrested, so they would put just the Greek letter chi there. And so it's a good thing that they're doing, because they're honoring Christ and remembering the days of the martyrs and everything by doing that. So that's a good thing. That's what I say to that, a big Bronx cheer. Do you really think anybody who's writing Xmas is saying, oh, well, first of all, we call it Xmas, not Chemus, and it's actually the letter chi, not chi. But do you think anybody who's writing it saying, oh, I'm thinking now of the days of the martyrs when they had to write this because, they couldn't, mention Jesus, and I'm thinking of my freedom now that I can mention Christ, so I'm just going to put that down instead. If you believe that, please see me after Mass. I've got a bridge for sale. No, that's not why they do it. They do it because it's quicker. It takes less time to write an X than to take the time to write out the name of Christ. And notice that Christmas is the only feast in the course of the year that has the name of God in it, and the only feast we feel we have to abbreviate. That we have time to write out all the other feasts, but when it comes to Christmas, no, we don't have time for Christ. Just put an X in there. And I even had somebody once defend it to me saying, well, but Father, I have arthritis, and when I'm writing things, to write out Christ takes too much, and the X is easier for me. I said, well, first of all, space out the cards, write a few here and there while you have the strength for it. I said, and if you need to abbreviate, why, of all things on the card, would you abbreviate the name of Christ? How about write Dear Joe, Sue, and kids, rather than writing out the name of each child individually? Why, of all things, would it be the name of Christ we think we have to abbreviate? And why do some people go to such extent to defend using Xmas instead of the name of Christ? It makes no sense to me. Not if we're trying to say we are followers of the Lord, we are here worshiping him, giving him everything, but we don't have time for his name. No, keep Christ in everything we do. And then the big mistake that many people make, and I am as guilty as anyone else, I accuse myself more than anyone else of doing this every year before Christmas, forgetting to take time and pray. With all of the busyness of decorating and buying our presents and things and preparing the Christmas meal and all that stuff, sometimes we can get so busy we forget to just take a little time every day and sit and pray and say, Lord, come. Come quickly in judgment. Come to me in my heart. Show me the graces you're giving me every day, and help me to make sure that everything is centered on you. So the Knights of Columbus for years have been reminding us, keep Christ in Christmas. And we have them in magnets all over in our cars and things and everywhere else. And it's become a big thing to remind ourselves, as the world is trying to get rid of God, we need to put him back in. So keep Christ in Christmas. Keep him in our decorations, keep him in our greeting cards, keep him in our greetings to one another, and we'll discover that not only has Christ remained with us throughout our Advent preparation and our celebration of Christmas, but he'll be with us even after the decorations long go away, after Christmas is over, and we'll discover by putting Christ in Christmas, we'll be putting him in our hearts, and he'll be with us the whole year. May Jesus Christ be praised, now and forever.